Hello, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the raised crossing design course so far. My name's Jamie Robertson. I'm the technical lead at Safe System Solutions. I wanted to talk to you for a few minutes about lighting design relating to raised crossings. So why do we look to light roads generally, and particularly pedestrian crossings? The main reason is, of course, for road safety reasons and pedestrian safety at pedestrian crossings. Prevention of crime is an important consideration as well. The statement at the bottom is a quote from AS 1158.4, and it really does point out a few of the key aspects of lighting pedestrian crossings. Function of lighting at pedestrian crossings is to illuminate the crossing. Illumination is a term that is used in lighting design, and it refers to the amount of light or to light falling on a surface. That can be on a horizontal surface, being the crossing itself. We can also measure illumination in the vertical plane, and that can be an important consideration at pedestrian crossings. So vertical illuminance illuminates people and their faces to approaching motorists and to each other. So lighting of pedestrian crossings involves a higher level of lighting than we typically provide elsewhere on our roads. A few key reference documents: the 1158 Australian and New Zealand Standard Series. There are quite a few parts to that series dealing with roadway lighting. Part 4 particularly deals with the lighting of pedestrian crossings. I should say supplementary lighting at pedestrian crossings. I'll talk shortly about particular requirements, but it really does come down to jurisdictional policy and guidelines as to whether that standard is applied. There are some jurisdictions that consider it an overly onerous requirement and generally do not provide supplementary lighting, depending on the road environment and the nature of the crossing. The Austroads Guide to Traffic Management does provide some guidance in the lighting space. It's high-level guidance rather than technical or detailed guidance. And as I say, always refer to your jurisdictional policies and guidelines for lighting requirements. So when we're talking about lighting design, there are a number of different categories or types of lighting that we might look to provide. You may have heard the terms category V and P lighting. Category V lighting relates to major roads or arterial roads. It typically uses higher wattage lights and higher mounting heights. Category P lighting, P for pedestrian, applies to local roads and pedestrian areas, car parks, and so on. Pedestrian crossing supplementary lighting is sometimes provided at crossings. It's described in detail in the standard 1158.4. And again, it comes back to jurisdictional policy as to whether that's applied. As an absolute minimum requirement, a lighting level of 3.5 lux, that's horizontal illumination of the crossing, is required at raised crossings. Now that particularly applies to local road environments. On more major roads, it's likely we'll have a V category lighting scheme in place and a higher lighting requirement. As I mentioned, the Guide to Traffic Management provides really quite high level advice on lighting and makes fairly general statements along the lines of the one at the bottom there. It is appropriate to use wombat crossings where there is adequate street lighting to maximise visibility. A few common terms in lighting design that you may have heard. Lamp is the light source, the globe or tube that provides the light. The luminaire is the light fitting that determines the distribution of light, the way the light is spread. Illuminance, as I've mentioned, is about light falling onto a surface, and we measure that in lux. Luminance relates to light reflecting up from a surface. So luminance requirements typically come into play at mid-block locations and on the approaches to locations where we are providing illuminance-based design. Outreach refers to the bracket or the sort of horizontal distance that the lamp and luminaire extend from their mount, a pole of some type. The overhang is the amount by which the luminaire overhangs the curb. Now, it's desirable that the luminaire or the light source does overhang the curb in order to illuminate the curb. So that can influence our choice of outreach bracket length. This snip from 1158.4 shows a typical pedestrian crossing with supplementary lighting. So supplementary lighting is usually provided with relatively lowly mounted lights angled towards the crossing that provide that vertical illumination of people on the crossing. This is a requirement at any crossing where we have flashing lights, and may be a requirement at your crossing sites, particularly on more major roads. So the road controlling authority should advise the applicable lighting category and whether or not supplementary lighting is required at a particular location. This image from the same standard shows the requirements or the measurement points for illumination on both the horizontal and vertical planes. And you can see there are quite a number of different points, both at ground level and at a height of 1.5 meters, at which the light output is to be checked and meet certain requirements. This photo is an example of a wombat crossing with flashing lights and supplementary lighting. The standard contains many images like this one, which relates to road humps or raised crossings with a raised platform. It defines the design area over which that we should illuminate. So typically we look to illuminate the raised platform or the road feature that we're looking to light, plus some area around that feature. In this case, we look to provide lighting for 3 meters on both approaches to the platform. We can demonstrate whether we will achieve these requirements by undertaking lighting assessments. It's common practice to do that, using lighting design software and modelling the existing lighting as is shown here. Lux contours are generated, and those contours will represent critical lux values according to the chosen lighting category or subcategory. These plots allow us to check whether or not the required lighting levels are achieved over the design areas. In this case, you can see the location of a proposed raised crossing where lighting is quite substandard and improvements are required. This image shows some proposed improvements and the associated illuminance provided by this proposed lighting scheme, which demonstrates that if we're looking to the solid red line, that the required lux levels are achieved over the crossing and the approaches to it. We can mount luminaires in a number of different ways, and this is often an important consideration in selecting the location of a pedestrian crossing. If we have distribution poles near to a crossing point, we can often mount lights off those poles. This can offer quite a cost saving as opposed to installing dedicated lighting poles. If we are installing lighting poles, we should ensure that they're frangible wherever possible, subject to clearance requirements to overhead power. And thinking about the potential for a dislodged pole to impact a pedestrian. For that reason, impact absorbing poles are preferred in pedestrian areas and near pedestrian crossings rather than slip-based poles. Solar lighting is becoming increasingly popular and is a great option where we don't have a direct power source. And I've heard recently that a solar light can be installed for as little as $7,000. So it's often not a sort of cost prohibitive consideration. This photo shows a raised crossing near a railway station. On the left-hand side, we can see a light mounted off a power pole and another light on the right-hand side, which is a new dedicated street lighting pole at the crossing itself. It's typical to see two lights, sometimes only one, but often two lights at a raised crossing, one on either side of the crossing point and located a short distance in advance of the platform. That's all from me. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please reach out.